Why do some people stay stuck while others move forward? It's not because they're smarter or luckier, it's because they act. Many wait for motivation, the perfect plan, or a sign. But that waiting becomes a habit. Action, not waiting, is what creates results. The people who win are the ones who push through fear, doubt, and laziness. They move first, figure things out later. Stop waiting. Be one of them. Start now. I, Napoleon Hill, have learned that success begins the moment you stop waiting and start moving. You don't need perfect timing or approval, only the courage to act. Progress is born from motion, not hesitation. Push forward, even in fear. Action is the seed from which all achievement grows. Start now. 1. Action is greater than motivation. Most people wait to feel ready before they do something important. They wait to feel inspired, confident, or full of energy. They believe that one day they will suddenly wake up with a strong desire to change, and that change will come easily. But that day often never comes. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and nothing changes. Why? Because motivation does not come first. Action does. Motivation is like the wind. It comes and goes. You cannot rely on it to carry you forward. If you only move when you feel motivated, you will not move very often. You will always be waiting. But action is different. Action is something you can choose, no matter how you feel. You can take a step forward, even if your legs feel heavy. You can begin, even if your heart is full of doubt. You can try, even if your mind says, "Not today." Something powerful happens when you act without waiting. When you take the first step, even when you don't feel like it, your mind starts to change. You begin to feel more awake, more focused. You build a little bit of belief. That small action brings a spark. That spark lights a small fire, and that fire is the beginning of motivation. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. People who wait to feel ready are stuck. They say things like, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I'm just not in the right mindset." But those are just thoughts. Thoughts are not rules. You don't have to follow them. You can feel unsure and still act. You can feel afraid and still take one small step forward. You do not need a perfect feeling to begin. You just need a little bit of courage. The truth is, the most important actions are often the hardest ones to take. They don't feel exciting, they feel uncomfortable, but that is what makes them powerful. If something is difficult, it means it matters. It means it will move you forward. Every time you act when it's hard, you grow stronger. You teach yourself that you are not controlled by moods or emotions. You lead your own life. This does not mean you have to do everything at once. You don't need to fix your whole life in a single day. Just take one small step, a small task, a simple action. That's how change begins. That's how strength grows. You don't have to wait for a wave of energy to carry you. You build your own momentum, one choice at a time. Think of it like walking through fog. You cannot see the whole path. You can only see the next step, but that is enough. Take that step, then take the next, and slowly the path becomes clearer. Your confidence grows, your direction becomes stronger, but none of that can happen unless you move first. You do not need to feel perfect to take action. You only need to decide that staying the same is no longer an option. Let that be your reason. Let that be your push. Action is not something that comes after motivation. It is the seed that grows motivation. The ones who understand this move ahead. The ones who forget stay stuck in their thoughts, waiting for a feeling that never lasts. If you want change, start. If you want strength, move. If you want clarity, act. Begin before you feel like it. Begin even if you are unsure. Action does not wait, it leads. And when you choose to act without permission from your emotions, you take back control. That is when real change begins. 2. Small moves create massive shifts. Many people believe that in order to change their lives, they need to make a big move. They think they have to change everything at once, take a giant leap, or wait for a major opportunity. But the truth is, great change often starts with something small. You don't need a big breakthrough to begin. You need a small step, taken again and again, with consistency and purpose. A strong tree does not grow in a single day. It begins as a seed. It grows slowly, quietly, day by day. It pushes its roots into the ground before anyone sees its leaves. The same is true for change. At first, your efforts may seem too small to matter, but over time they build. They take root. And one day, you will look back and see how far you've come, not from one huge move, but from many small ones. When people say they feel stuck, it is often because they believe they must do something grand to break free. But this belief holds them back. It makes the goal feel too big, too far, too heavy. So they delay, they plan, they wait, but while they are waiting for a big moment, they miss the small actions they could take today. And those small actions are the very ones that would start to change everything. If you want to write, start with one sentence. If you want to build strength, begin with a short walk. If you want to grow, choose one habit and repeat it daily. It may not seem like much, but these small moves create new patterns. They begin to shape who you are. You stop being someone who thinks about change and start becoming someone who lives change. The key is not to make one perfect move. It is to stay in motion, to choose something you can do today, no matter how small, and follow through with it. This kind of action builds trust in yourself. It builds belief. You start to see that you can rely on your own word, that you can keep promises, even quiet ones, that you can move forward, even when no one is watching. And here is what's most powerful. Small actions often lead to big shifts in your thinking. You start to feel different, not because your life has changed overnight, but because you have begun to change inside. You are becoming someone who shows up, who follows through, who doesn't give up after a few days, and that change in identity is the true start of transformation. Even when the world feels heavy, small steps keep you moving. They keep your spirit awake. They help you build strength without burning out. And over time, these small efforts will stack, one upon another, day after day, until they no longer feel small, until they become part of who you are. Do not wait for the perfect moment. Do not look for the big breakthrough. Look for the next step, the small one you can take right now. Do it well, do it with heart, do it again tomorrow. That is how a quiet shift becomes a powerful change. Big change is not made in a single moment. It is built with steady hands, quiet discipline, and a heart that refuses to quit. Your life does not need one big move, it needs daily action, and that begins not with force, but with focus, not with pressure, but with patience. If you take the small step today, you begin the journey that will one day lead you far beyond where you started. 3. Kill perfection, embrace progress. Many people never begin because they believe everything has to be perfect. They think the plan must be flawless, the timing must be right, and their skills must be strong before they can take the first step. But this idea of perfection is not helpful. In fact, it is one of the biggest reasons why people stay stuck. They are so afraid of making mistakes that they never move at all. Perfection is a trap. It looks like high standards, but it hides fear. It whispers, "You're not ready yet," or "You'll mess it up," or "You need to do more before you begin." And so, time passes. The task grows larger in their mind. The fear grows stronger. The more they wait, the harder it feels to start. But here is the truth. Nothing starts perfect. Not a book, not a business, not a habit, not a person. Everything worthwhile begins messy, uncertain, and often clumsy. The first steps are never smooth. But without those first steps, you never get to the later ones, the better ones, the stronger ones, the ones that begin to shine. You do not need to be great to begin, but you must begin to become great. Progress happens when you let go of the need to be perfect and choose to simply move forward. Even if your action is not your best, it is still better than doing nothing. Even if your first attempt is full of errors, it is still worth more than endless planning with no results. When you choose progress, you choose growth. You open the door to learning. Mistakes become teachers. Missteps become part of the story. And each time you try, you become a little better, a little wiser, a little stronger. People who wait for perfection often never start, but people who accept progress get further than they imagined. They build confidence with each step. They don't worry about being right all the time, they just stay in motion. They don't expect to feel proud. Every day they focus on showing up. Perfection often comes from pride. It's the need to look good, to never fail, to always have control. But that pride steals progress. It keeps you standing still, hoping one day you'll be good enough to try. But that day never comes, because the only way to get good at something is to start before you feel ready. You must be willing to look like a beginner, to stumble, to learn slowly, because all growth begins with humility. Those who achieve great things are not the ones who waited until they were perfect. They are the ones who acted while they were still unsure, still figuring it out, still growing into who they needed to become. Let go of the idea that you must have it all figured out. Let go of the lie that your work must be without flaw before it is worth doing. Begin with what you have. Begin with where you are. Begin even if it's awkward, because every small, imperfect step forward brings you closer to your goal. Progress may not look beautiful, but it builds strength. It builds courage. It builds the habit of showing up no matter what, and that habit is worth more than any plan that never leaves the paper. If you want to grow, start where you are, with what you have, and do what you can. It won't be perfect. It doesn't need to be. It only needs to be real. And if it is real, and it is repeated, it will carry you farther than perfection ever could. 4. Discomfort means you're growing. Many people believe something is wrong when they feel uncomfortable. They think it's a sign to stop, turn around, or wait until things feel easier. But this is a misunderstanding. Discomfort is not a warning. It's a sign that you are changing. It means you are stepping into something new, something bigger than what you're used to. Growth does not feel comfortable. It feels hard, unfamiliar, and sometimes even scary, but that does not mean you're doing it wrong. It means you are moving forward. Think about how a plant grows. First, the seed breaks apart. That's not a smooth or gentle process. Then the roots push into the soil, and the stem struggles to reach the surface. It faces darkness, pressure, and resistance. But that struggle is necessary. Without it, the plant would never rise toward the sunday. The same is true for people. Growth always comes with struggle. If there is no challenge, there is no change. Most people avoid discomfort. They want progress to feel light and easy. But easy paths do not lead to strong places. Easy paths build comfort, not character. Real change requires effort. It demands choices that stretch you. It pulls you out of old habits and into new ones that feel strange at first. This is normal. This is how you grow. Discomfort shows up when you wake earlier than usual, when you say no to what used to control you, when you try something new and fail, when you take a step without knowing exactly what's next. It feels like pressure. It feels like doubt. But it is not danger. It is not a stop sign. It is a signal. Something is shifting. There is no strength without struggle. If you want to build a strong body, you must lift something heavier than what feels easy. If you want to build a strong mind, you must face thoughts that challenge your old ways of thinking. And if you want to build a strong life, you must face days that push you out of your comfort zone. The work that grows you will often be the same work that makes you uncomfortable. The truth is, the people who grow the most are not the ones who avoid pain. They are the ones who walk through it with their eyes open. They don't enjoy every moment. They don't always feel brave, but they keep going. They understand that growth comes after discomfort, not before. They trust the process, even when it feels slow. If you want to live a full life, you must be willing to feel what most people run from. You must be willing to be a beginner again, to not be the best, to try and fall and get back up. You must walk into the unknown, not because it feels safe, but because it holds what you truly want. That kind of courage is not loud, it is quiet. It shows up in small daily acts. It grows with each step you take, especially when that step feels hard. So do not fear discomfort. Welcome it. Let it teach you. Let it shape you. Every time you step through it, you become a little stronger, a little clearer, a little more ready for what's ahead. You cannot grow while staying the same. And you cannot stay the same while growing. Discomfort is not the enemy. It is the doorway. And if you walk through it, you will find the kind of strength you never knew you had. 5. Stop thinking, start doing. Many people spend a lot of time thinking. They think about what they want to do. They think about how it might go wrong. They think about what others might say. They think about every step they might need to take and every problem that might come up. They keep thinking day after day, but they don't move. And the more they think, the harder it feels to start. Thinking is not bad. It can help you make smart choices. But too much thinking turns into delay. It becomes a wall between you and your action. The task feels bigger than it really is. The fear grows stronger. Doubt fills your mind. What began as a small job now feels impossible, not because it is hard, but because your mind has turned it into something scary. The more time you spend in your head, the more power your fear has. The more you plan without doing, the more you start to believe your own excuses. You say, "It's not the right time," or "I'm not ready yet," or "I'll begin tomorrow." but tomorrow keeps moving further away, and nothing changes. The truth is, action brings clarity. You don't need to have all the answers before you begin. You learn as you go. You grow stronger as you try. You build understanding by doing, not by thinking about doing. You will never feel completely ready, but you do not have to be ready to begin. You just have to begin. Even one small action can change your thinking. It breaks the fear. It gives your mind something to focus on. It creates movement. And once you are in motion, it becomes easier to keep going. The hardest part is the first step. After that, the next one is lighter. You don't have to leap. You just have to move. Thinking too much is often a way to avoid the fear of failing. But the only real failure is not trying. When you do nothing, nothing changes. When you act, something changes, even if it's small. Maybe you make a mistake. That's fine. You learn. Maybe it doesn't go as planned. That's fine. You adjust. But at least you are not stuck in your thoughts anymore. You are moving. You cannot think your way into a new life. You must act your way into it. Action creates new habits. Action builds confidence. Action teaches lessons that thinking never can. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real, and it has to begin. Let go of the need to feel certain. Let go of the idea that you must figure it all out first. That day may never come, but today is here, and today you can take one step. You can make one choice. You can stop planning and start doing. That is how change begins, not in your mind, but in your movement. Many people wait for a strong feeling to push them forward, but that feeling is not what they need. What they need is to act first. The feeling comes later. Once the work begins, the mind follows. The energy comes, the focus grows, but it all starts with a decision to stop thinking and start doing. Action is the cure for doubt. Action is the cure for fear. Action is the path forward, no matter how unclear it feels at first. You don't need to feel brave. You only need to move. And when you do, you'll wonder why you waited so long, because once you begin, everything starts to change. 6. Waiting is a silent killer. Many people say they are waiting for the right moment. They wait for the right mood, the right time, the right feeling. They wait for more strength, more confidence, or more knowledge. They believe that one day everything will line up perfectly, and then they will begin. But that perfect moment almost never comes. And while they wait, time passes, and nothing changes. Waiting feels safe. It feels like you are being careful. It feels like you are planning. But often, waiting is just fear in disguise. It's a way to avoid discomfort, to avoid the unknown, to avoid the hard work that comes with change. The truth is, waiting rarely helps. In fact, it often makes things worse. The longer you wait, the heavier the task feels. The longer you wait, the more you doubt yourself. Waiting takes your energy and gives you nothing in return. Every day you wait is a day you could have used to grow. Every day you wait is a day that could have brought you closer to your goal. But instead, it's another day where nothing moves. And the hardest part is that it feels like you're doing something. You say you're thinking about it, you say you're preparing, but all that thinking and preparing is just another name for delay. It feels like progress, but it isn't. Real progress begins when you stop waiting and start doing. You don't need to be completely ready. You don't need to feel confident. You don't need to have every detail in place. You only need to take the first step. And once you do, the path begins to reveal itself. You learn as you go. You adjust along the way. But nothing happens until you begin. People wait because they are afraid of failing, but failure is part of the process. It's how you learn, it's how you grow. The longer you try to avoid it, the longer you stay stuck. No one ever reached their goal by sitting still. They reached it by acting while they were afraid, by moving even when they had doubts, by choosing to begin even when the future was unclear. The longer you wait, the more you lose not just time, but confidence. You start to believe that you are someone who doesn't follow through. You start to think that you are not the kind of person who takes action. And over time, that belief becomes a habit. It becomes part of how you see yourself. That is the true cost of waiting. It slowly takes away your belief in your own power. You don't have to feel brave to begin. You just have to be willing to move forward. Even a small step breaks the silence. Even a little effort pushes you out of stillness. And once you are in motion, you begin to feel stronger. You begin to feel more focused, and that focus leads to more action. The world does not reward people who wait. It rewards those who act. those who take a chance, those who start before they feel fully ready, because action is what creates results. Waiting only creates regret. If you want to change your life, you must stop waiting for the perfect moment. It does not exist. The perfect moment is the one you create when you act. It begins the moment you decide that waiting is no longer an option. And when you take that step, you break free. You leave behind the silence of delay and step into the sound of your own movement. And that sound is the beginning of progress. 7. You are not your mood. There are days when you feel tired, days when you feel low, confused, or lost. On those days, it's easy to believe that something is wrong with you. It's easy to think that you should wait until you feel better before doing anything important. But that belief is what keeps many people stuck. They let their mood decide their actions. They wait for energy, for excitement, for a better feeling to show up. And while they wait, nothing changes. Your mood is not your guide. It is not your truth. It is just a passing state. It can change quickly, sometimes without reason. You may wake up feeling heavy one day and light the next. You may feel strong in the morning and full of doubt in the evening. That's normal. Moods rise and fall like waves, but you do not have to ride every wave. You can let the wave come and still move forward. People often believe they must feel ready to take action, but the truth is, you can act no matter how you feel. You can be tired and still do the work. You can be uncertain and still make a decision. You can be nervous and still move forward. You do not need to wait for your mood to change. You can choose to act anyway. This is what separates people who grow from people who stay the same. Those who grow learn to work through their mood, not under it. They show up when they don't feel like it. They keep going even when it's hard. And over time, something begins to shift. Their actions change their mood, not the other way around. When you act despite how you feel, you build trust in yourself. You learn that you are stronger than your emotions. You learn that your future matters more than your comfort. That kind of strength cannot be built by waiting. It is built by doing. It is built one choice at a time, even when those choices are difficult. There is nothing wrong with feeling down. It happens to everyone. But you don't have to let those feelings decide your path. You can feel low and still rise. You can feel unsure and still walk forward. The people who create real change are not the ones who feel good every day. They are the ones who keep going, even when they don't. When you let your mood control your choices, your life becomes small. You do less. You risk less. You stay safe, but you stay stuck. But when you choose to act, no matter how you feel, you start to break that pattern. You start to rise above it. You begin to live from purpose, not emotion. Every time you act when it's hard, you build something stronger inside you. You prove to yourself that you don't need perfect feelings to move. You just need a reason that matters more than your mood. Maybe it's your family, maybe it's your future, maybe it's simply the promise you made to yourself to not give up. Let that reason carry you when your mood cannot. Let it remind you who you are, not someone ruled by emotion, but someone guided by choice, someone who moves even when it's uncomfortable, someone who shows up even when it's not easy. Your mood may change from day to day, but your actions can stay steady, and that steadiness is what builds a strong life. You are not your mood. You are your habits, your choices, your effort. And when you choose action over emotion, day after day, you become someone powerful, someone who no longer waits to feel ready, but chooses to move forward no matter what. 8. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. At first, the task seems simple. It might take only a few minutes or a short effort to get it done. But you say, "I'll do it later." One day passes, then 2, then a week, and suddenly what once felt small now feels heavy. The job hasn't changed, but your mind has made it bigger, harder, and scarier. This is what waiting does. It adds weight. It turns a simple step into a mountain. Many people live this way. They delay again and again, not because they're lazy, but because they believe a better time will come. They tell themselves they'll feel more ready tomorrow, that things will be easier next week, that the pressure will go away on its own. But what really happens is the opposite. The more you wait, the harder it feels to begin. Not because the task changes, but because your fear grows. Your mind starts to build stories. You begin to believe that you're already behind, so why try? You feel guilt for not starting earlier, so you avoid it even more. What once needed action now feels like a burden, and every time you walk past it, ignore it, or put it off, the feeling grows stronger. But here's the truth. That weight is not real. It's built from thoughts, not facts. The task is still the same. What needs to be done hasn't changed. The only way to stop the pressure from growing is to act. You don't need to do everything at once. You just need to start. You need to face what you've been avoiding, not with fear, but with honesty. When you take the first step, something happens. The pressure begins to fall. Your energy begins to rise. You start to feel lighter, not because the task is gone, but because you've finally taken control. You're no longer running from it. You're facing it. You may not finish it in one try. That's okay. What matters is that you've started. You've broken the wall that waiting built. You've stepped through the fear and returned to action. That first move may feel hard, but it is the door to freedom. Once it opens, the rest becomes easier. People often believe they need to wait for the perfect moment, but waiting does not create peace. It creates pressure. It builds stress. It feeds self-doubt. And the longer you wait, the louder those voices become. They say, "You're too far behind." They say, "It's too late now." But they are lies. You are not behind. It is not too late. You can start now. There is no perfect moment. There is only this moment. Right now is your chance to begin again. Right now is your chance to take back your strength. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to say, "I'm done waiting," and take the first small step. Every time you do this, you become stronger. You teach yourself that you can handle hard things. You remind yourself that action is always possible. Even if the task is slow, even if it's messy, you're doing something. And that something matters more than all the waiting in the world. Do not let time turn simple steps into heavy burdens. Do not give fear more power than it deserves. Act now. Act even if it's late. Act even if it's hard, because the longer you wait, the harder it gets. But the moment you begin, the weight begins to lift, and you begin to feel alive again. 9. Build systems, not just hype. Many people begin with great energy. They feel excited. They feel ready. They make a big plan. They say, "This time I will change everything." For a few days, they work hard. They push themselves. But then they get tired. Their energy fades. Their excitement disappears. And the plan slowly falls apart. The reason is simple. They were relying on feelings instead of systems. Feelings are like the weather, they change. One day you feel strong, the next you feel weak. One day you're focused, the next you're distracted. But a system does not care how you feel. A system works because it is steady. It is something you follow no matter what. A system is a simple plan you can repeat. It tells you when to do something, how to do it, and how often. It removes the need to decide every day. It removes the need to feel inspired. When you have a system, you don't have to ask, "Should I do it today?" You already know the answer. Think of brushing your teeth. You don't wait until you feel excited to do it. You just do it because it's part of your day. That is what a good system feels like. It becomes normal. It becomes part of who you are. And once it becomes part of you, it's much harder to break. Hype feels good, but it fades fast. A system may feel boring, but it lasts. It keeps you going when you feel tired. It helps you stay on track when life gets busy. It gives you structure when your mind is full, and it protects your progress when your willpower is low. People who grow in a lasting way do not rely on willpower alone. They build routines. They follow a simple path. They make things easier by planning ahead. They prepare for the hard days by having a system they can fall back on. This is what keeps them going when others quit. Without a system, you waste energy. You spend your time trying to decide what to do. You argue with yourself. You delay. You get lost in thoughts. But with a system, there is no argument. You just do the work. You do what's next. And every time you follow through, you feel more in control. Building a system is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about creating small steps you can take every day. Steps that fit your life. Steps that help you grow. These steps should not be too hard. They should not drain you. They should support you. The goal is not to impress anyone. The goal is to move forward without stopping. Start simple. Choose one thing to do each day. Set a time for it. Keep it small, keep it clear, and most of all, stick with it. At first, it might feel slow, but over time, it builds strength. It builds trust. It builds progress. You do not need more hype. You do not need another big promise to yourself. What you need is a strong base, a daily path, a plan that works even when life feels heavy. That is the power of systems. They carry you forward when energy runs out. They build a strong life, one steady step at a time. Let others chase the feeling of excitement. You will build something better, something solid, something that lasts, not because you felt inspired, but because you followed through. Not once, but every day. That is how true change is made, not by chance, not by mood, but by a system that works. 10. Identity drives consistent action. What you do each day is not only shaped by your habits or your plans, it is mostly shaped by how you see yourself. If you believe you are someone who gives up easily, you will give up. If you see yourself as lazy, you will act lazy. But if you begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who keeps going, someone who takes action even when it's hard, then your actions will begin to match that belief. People try to change by using force. They make long to-do lists. They try to push themselves hard. But if deep inside they still believe they are not good enough, not strong enough, or not meant for more, they will return to their old habits.